Have you ever really wondered what's going on deep inside you? I mean, way deeper than organs and tissues? Today, we're diving into the city within your cells. We're exploring the cytoskeleton, the dynamic living infrastructure that makes, well, pretty much all life possible. So let's just start with a wild thought experiment. Imagine a city that could completely rebuild itself in a matter of minutes. I'm talking tear down highways, reroute every single street, move skyscrapers around, all in the time it takes you to make a cup of coffee. Sounds like something out of science fiction, right? Well, it's not. It is the reality happening inside every single one of your cells, every second of the day. And this incredible, constantly changing network? That's the cytoskeleton. Now, don't let the name fool you. This is not a static, rigid skeleton like ours. No. It's a living, breathing, three-dimensional web of protein filaments. It gives the cell its shape, it organizes all the machinery inside, and it even powers its movement. It is, in every way, the cell's dynamic, bustling inner city. So, how does this cellular city actually work? Well, like any good metropolis, it's built from a few core materials. In this case, we're talking about 3 different types of protein filaments. So let's get to know the 3 key players that make this entire operation possible. Okay, so this city analogy, it works perfectly. We've got 3 main components. First up, you have microfilaments. Think of these as the local roads and side streets, the ones that can be quickly rerouted to change the shape of a neighborhood. Then you've got the microtubules. These are the major superhighways, the big arteries for shipping cargo long distance across the cell. And finally, you have the intermediate filaments. These are these steel girders, the rebar, the very framework that gives the whole city its strength and stops it from collapsing. All right, first stop on our tour, the city's local streets, the microfilaments. These are actually the most abundant of the 3 filaments, and they are all about one thing: adaptability. They're constantly reshaping the cell and allowing it to move on a local scale. These filaments are made of a protein called actin, and they are incredibly thin. We're talking just 7 nanometers across. That's unbelievably tiny. They form a dense network just beneath the cell's outer membrane, basically defining the city limits. They also build all these specialized structures on the surface, like microvilli, which are like tiny little fingers that increase the cell's surface area. And to give you a sense of just how vital actin is, get this. In your muscle cells, actin accounts for a whopping 10% of all the protein in the cell by weight. That's a huge amount, and it's because actin is the engine behind muscle contraction. It's doing the literal heavy lifting for the cell. So, how can the city build and tear down these roads so incredibly fast? Well, it happens in 3 stages. First is nucleation, which is a slow step where just a few actin molecules get together to form a seed. Think of it like laying the very first few paving stones. Then boom, elongation. New actin stones are added super fast to both ends, extending the road. And finally, you reach this sweet spot, a steady state, where the road is being built and dismantled at the exact same rate. And this leads to a really fascinating process called treadmilling. Seriously, this is cool. Imagine a road where new pavement is constantly being laid at one end, while at the exact same time, old pavement is being torn up from the other end. The road itself would actually look like it's moving forward, right? Well, that is exactly how a cell can crawl or push out parts of itself. It's literally paving its own way into new territory. Okay, so we've seen the local streets. Now let's zoom out and take a look at the superhighways of the cell, the microtubules. These are the massive, long-haul routes that connect the entire cellular city, making sure all the vital supplies get exactly where they need to go. These are made of a protein called tubulin, and they form these long, hollow tubes. They all radiate out from a central hub located near the nucleus, called the Microtubule-organizing center. You can think of it as the city's central station, with these huge highways extending out to every corner of the cell, providing this rigid network for all the cargo transport. Now, of course, a highway system is pretty useless without trucks, and the cell has 2 main types of molecular motors that act as its cargo trucks. You've got kinesins, which are the outbound fleet. They carry cargo away from that central hub. And then you have dyneins, which are the inbound fleet, bringing all the materials back. It's a super efficient 2-way delivery system that's running 24/7. But here's where it gets really, really wild. These highways, they aren't permanent, not even close. They're in a constant state of what's called dynamic instability. A microtubule can be growing steadily one moment, and then suddenly, poof, It just collapses in on itself in an event literally called a catastrophe. And then, just as quickly, it can be rescued and start growing all over again. This lets the cell build and tear down its highways wherever and whenever they are needed most. It's incredible. Okay, we've seen the adaptable streets and the dynamic, disappearing highways, but every city needs a solid foundation, right? Something that can withstand stress and is built to last. Well, that's where our third key player comes in, the intermediate filaments. These are the steel beams and the concrete of our cellular city. Unlike microfilaments and microtubules, these filaments are not about movement or transport. They're all about pure, raw strength. These are tough, rope-like fibers that weave through the cytoplasm to give the cell its structural integrity, stopping it from tearing or collapsing when it's under physical stress. You know, their role is all about stability. They form this protective cage around the nucleus, basically guarding the cell's genetic blueprints. They anchor cells to each other, which creates strong tissues like our skin. They're also what make our hair and nails so tough and resilient. They really are the unsung heroes of the cellular world. So we have streets that move, highways that can appear and disappear, and a steel-like framework for support. Now, let's see what happens when the cellular city undertakes its most ambitious project ever, building a whole new city from scratch. This is mitosis, or cell division, and it's where the cytoskeleton truly puts on a show. When a cell gets ready to divide, it performs this incredible act of civil engineering. It completely re-engineers its entire cytoskeleton. The network that was there before is dismantled, and all its parts are reassembled into a brand new temporary machine, the mitotic spindle. And this machine has one job and one job only, to perfectly separate the cell's duplicated chromosomes. The mitotic spindle is a seriously complex machine. It has several different types of microtubules all working together in perfect coordination. Some of them act like grappling hooks, attaching directly to the chromosomes to pull them apart. Others act like hydraulic rams, pushing the two ends of the cell away from each other. It's just a beautifully coordinated effort to make sure each new cell gets a perfect copy of the genetic blueprint. The climax of this whole process is a phase called anaphase. And it happens in this stunning two-step maneuver. First, in what's called anaphase A, the microtubules pull the duplicated chromosomes apart towards opposite ends of the cell, kind of like reeling in two massive fish. Then, at the exact same time, during anaphase B, other microtubules push the poles themselves further apart, creating the maximum possible distance between the two new sets of chromosomes. I mean, it's just an incredibly elegant and precise process. It really is a perfectly choreographed dance of construction and deconstruction, all powered by those very same Kinesin and Dynein motor proteins that run the cell's day-to-day logistics, now repurposed for this absolutely monumental task. And you know, the most amazing part of all this? It isn't happening in some textbook or a distant lab. It's happening inside you, right now, in trillions of your cells. This dynamic, ever-changing city is the absolute foundation of your very existence. So the next time you think of a city, just remember the ones inside of you. They're the most incredible cities you will ever know.